It looks like F1 drivers will be quite irate about the direction that the sport is gradually but surely taking after Stefano Domenicali revealed a highly contentious concept for sprint races. Domenicali insists that there's a chance we'll see these races almost every weekend now that the sprint races have undergone some much-needed and highly received adjustments. However, is this feasible given the existing Formula One schedule, and what would the drivers think of 24 sprint events annually? It goes without saying that one of the most contentious issues of the last few years has been the sprint race weekend. However, the F1 community as a whole has graciously welcomed the drivers and teams' acceptance of the changes that have separated the event from the main Grand Prix in terms of the park firm rules. Domenicali did, however, allude to the possibility of expanding the sprint race count from 6 to 8, based on remarks made by drivers such as Verstappen and Alonso. Even if the move was positive, the three-time world champion was insistent that the sport shouldn't push itself too hard in the pursuit of greater fame and glory, so this wouldn't be good for the Formula One grid. Regarding the sport's future plans, Domenicali stated that from the following year there will be more sprint events, and that the possibility of having all sprint races organized like MotoGP in the future is being discussed. There are now 6 sprint racing events scheduled, but Domenicali originally intended to add 2 more, or roughly 1/3 of the season, to be dedicated to sprint races. The F1 fans will be happy about this since it increases the level of competitiveness and excitement on the grid, particularly now that the race has been separated from the main event on Sunday, allowing the drivers to push harder during the sprint race. However, given how close the competition is right now, every point matters, so drivers who are in a close race for the championship like Norris and Verstappen in this case should take the risks. However, if the calendar is set to include 24 sprint events, it will be interesting to watch how the drivers respond to this because a lot of math will be done before each race. The dominance of the cars on particular tracks, which has been the main problem for teams like Red Bull, has been shown by the current regulatory age. Since Miami, practically every place we've visited has shown McLaren to be a difficult nut to crack, giving way to Ferrari and Mercedes. This is a strong indication that teams can and will exercise prudence when necessary and let loose when necessary. This might lead to many tactical battles in the paddock, which may not be the greatest approach to win races. Every spectator enjoys watching a race, but if the drivers and the vehicles are forced to push it to the limit twice a weekend, more crashes and unhappy team owners and drivers will undoubtedly be among the main issues the teams will have to deal with. Furthermore, Domenicali has expressed great enthusiasm about the possibility of having reverse grids starting in 2025. The Italian said, "I feel that the thing has shifted completely the other way around. With separate qualifying in part Fermi, the flow is much better today, of course." There are certain topics that are always quite debatable. We can really once again discuss if there is the need to reverse the grid or half the grid, like what F2 and F3 are doing. These are always things to keep the mind alive, if I may say, with the intent to keep something always interesting. Domenicali has been subject to a lot of criticism because this is ruining the weekend for a driver who had an incredibly successful qualifying session on Friday. For instance, if Norris, Verstappen, or any other driver gets the most out of the car, they might start from P10 after winning the pole position, and with the dirty air coming from the cars ahead, overtaking would be very difficult. On the other hand, drivers who are having mediocre weekends and a qualifying P10 on Friday would end up on, and if they could somehow push their midfield cars to the absolute maximum for 100 km, the duration of the sprint race, then we could be looking at an incredibly successful race weekend. However, Domenicali does not believe in the concept of fake racing, as he has been accused of, and in response to those accusations, the Italian said, "I would personally say why not reverse grids? It's a lot of action, it is overtaking, you are fighting for points." I'd like to talk about that again, because some people would argue, oh, it's a fake way of racing fake. But there is nothing fake about the structure you think will result in amazing action. Domenicali has been adamant that the calendar will remain at 24 races for the foreseeable future. To elaborate, he said that more and more countries want a Grand Prix, and that they are also in talks with Africa and Rwanda. We used to be Eurocentric, but now that Europe represents about 1/3 of the World Championship, we will stay at 24 Grand Prix. This could be good news for the F1 drivers as well as the sport's apparent commitment to continuing to race on 24 events. Which could be bad news for iconic tracks like Barcelona Spa or Zandvoort. Max Verstappen has been vocal about his dislike for sprint events in Formula One. The three-time world champion has expressed concerns that pushing for more sprint races could ultimately harm the sport. Given his sentiments, it's likely he wouldn't be thrilled if the number of sprint events increased to 24 in the future. This could also contribute to the possibility of him retiring earlier than expected. In a recent interview in Zandvoort, marking his 200th career race, Verstappen was asked if he could see himself driving another 200 races. He firmly responded, no, indicating that he is now closer to the end of his career than the beginning. Discussing the sprint events, Verstappen said he preferred the previous format, describing it as more straightforward. He acknowledged that while sprint races may boost TV ratings and fan engagement, they also increase the workload and stress on teams, particularly the mechanics. Verstappen cautioned against expanding the number of sprint events to 12, warning that it could take a toll on everyone involved. Other drivers, like Lando Norris, have been more supportive of the previous format, which limited teams' ability to perfect their cars throughout the race weekend. However, the new format allows teams to continue working on their cars after the sprint race and before the main event, a change that will likely remain despite differing opinions. In addition to changes to the sprint format, F1's future holds other developments. Stefano Domenicali, a key figure in the sport, is advocating for a new race featuring rookie drivers to be held after the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi. Domenicali believes this will provide rookie drivers with valuable experience in F1 equipment and offer them a chance to demonstrate their abilities in competitive, wheel-to-wheel racing, which could be crucial for their future in the sport. According to Domenicali, a project to organize a sprint race for young drivers in Abu Dhabi is being considered. We are thinking about ways to provide young people with the chance to excel in the Yas Marina test and gain experience not only by driving in the test but also in a competitive setting. This would undoubtedly aid in their training to get them ready for the next step. We will discuss this in more detail by the end of September to determine the viability of this idea. Taking all of this into consideration, do you believe that Formula One has a legitimate chance of adding 24 sprint events to its schedule? If so, do you believe that this will negatively affect the drivers and the sport's competitiveness, which is currently shifting more and more towards celebrity and popularity than pure racing? After you've read our thoughts in the comments section below, please watch the video that is currently playing on your screen.